What if Deku never got One for All from All Might? Would the heroes still be able to defeat the villains, or would All for One take over the world? Before we start, I will only include the canon anime story, so no movies are included in how the story goes. So, let's kick things off at the beginning, back when Deku was just a student at Aldera Junior High. Even though he's constantly bullied for being quirkless, his dream of becoming a hero like his idol All Might is still as strong as ever. But let's be real. It's hard to stay strong when you're told you're worthless every single day, especially by someone who used to be your childhood friend. As we know, while he's walking home, Deku runs into the sludge villain who tries to take over his body. Luckily, just in the nick of time, All Might swoops in and saves him. Completely starstruck, Deku clings onto him and holds on for dear life, as he's desperate for advice from his idol. He asks the big question, can someone without a quirk still become a hero? But All Might says it's impossible. Feeling defeated and doubting his dream, Deku spirals into sadness. But being the hero he is at heart, he doesn't hesitate when he sees Bakugo in danger. All Might witnesses Deku's bravery, steps in to defeat the villain, and later finds Deku to thank him for showing what true heroism looks like. But then comes the twist. Instead of offering him One for All Might tells Deku he still can't become a hero, urging him to stay safe and live a happy life instead of putting himself in harm's way. Once again, Deku is crushed, feeling like his dream is completely out of reach. But Deku isn't the type to give up so easily. He throws himself into training, determined to crush the entrance exam and prove he's got what it takes to be a hero. Meanwhile, All Might sticks to his original plan, joining UA as a teacher. Whether Deku ended up as his successor or not, All Might wanted to join UA to guide the next generation of heroes before his time runs out. He also, of course, wanted to find the true successor to One for All at UA. So, at UA, he quickly learns about Mirko Toga, a powerhouse with amazing strength and an unshakable heroic spirit. Seeing Mirio's potential, All Might considers giving him One for All, believing he might be the only one strong enough to defeat the Demon King. But there's a catch. Passing One for All to someone with a quirk drastically shortens their lifespan. So, Mirko would likely only have a year to live. But even knowing the risks, Mirko accepts without hesitation. His resolve to save the world is unshakable. But will a year be enough to take down the Demon King? Well, that's what we'll find out. Now it's time for the entrance exam, and Deku's fired up to prove everyone wrong. But just like in the original story, things don't go his way. He can't score a single point and ends up feeling completely hopeless. Then, out of nowhere, the massive 0-point robot shows up and starts causing chaos. When Deku spots Uraraka trapped under some rubble, he knows he doesn't have a quirk to save her. But being the hero he is at heart, he rushes to help anyway, trying desperately to free her. Just when it looks like both of them are about to be flattened, the teachers shut the robot down in the nick of time before they can get hurt. A week later, Deku gets a letter from UA. He's pretty nervous about opening it, and feels discouraged after everything that happened during the exam. When he finally does, it turns out he's been accepted, but not into the hero course. Instead, he's placed in the General Studies department. It's not exactly the dream he had in mind, but he's still excited and hopeful about the future because, hey, he's still a UA student. That also means he's in the same class as Hitoshi Shinso. But what about Uraraka? I'd say she still makes it into the hero course since we don't really know how many rescue points she earned before she helped save Deku in the original story. When the school year kicks off, Class 1A is pretty much the same as we know it, just with someone else in Deku's spot. Yuga Aoyama would still be in Class 1A too, since All for One planted him there to spy on All Might way before he even knew Deku had inherited One for All. So All for One wanted someone on the inside to feed him info on All Might, knowing he'd be a teacher at UA. And here's the thing, most of the big events in the show don't happen to Class 1A because Deku has One for All. They happen because All Might is their teacher. And let's not forget, All Might would still be teaching the first years even if Mirko had gotten One for All instead of Deku, because that's who he's qualified to teach as a rookie teacher with no experience. Everything goes pretty much the same as the original at first, but things take a dark turn during the USJ arc. When the villains show up, Mineta and Asui get trapped in the shipwreck zone, and without Deku around to come up with an escape plan, they end up being killed by the villains. Things only get worse. Since Asui and Mineta aren't there to keep Shigaraki distracted, Aizawa ends up dying too. All Might eventually shows up and takes on the Nomu, and that fight still goes down the same way, as he pushes himself to the limit and manages to defeat the Nomu. But Shigaraki and Kurogiri then move in to finish off the completely drained All Might. In the original, Deku stepped in to save All Might, giving Snipe the chance to shoot Shigaraki's hand before he could finish Deku off. Without Deku, though, I still think Snipe would have been able to save All Might at the last second. After the chaos at the USJ, there's probably no way the sports festival is happening. UA also ends up making a public apology for failing to keep their students and teachers safe. And without the festival and Deku, both Shoto and Shinso continue to spiral down in their dark headspaces. Shoto especially, since he'd still be refusing to use his fire side. However, the internships are still a go, but that also means the next student to die is Tenya Ida, as he would have been killed by Stain during his attempt to confront the villain. Sadly, the pro-hero native wouldn't make it either since Shoto never gets Deku's distress signal. With both heroes down and Deku and Shoto not there, Stain wouldn't have been caught, though the Hosu attack would still get wrapped up in the end. Things play out pretty much the same up until the summer camp arc, but with a much darker twist. Even though more heroes would have been there to protect the students because of all the tragedies that has happened, the camp turns into a total nightmare. Koda ends up being killed by Muscular, just like his parents. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And without Deku there to stop Muscular, the villain runs wild, and there's almost no one who could take him down. Mandalay doesn't make it either. She's killed by Spinner, since Deku isn't around to destroy the sword Spinner uses to strike her with. Meizo Shoji also ends up falling victim to Dark Shadow's rampage while trying to save Tokoyami. And if that wasn't enough, Bakugo, Shoto, and Tokoyami are all captured by Compress. Uraraka manages to hold her own in a fight against Toga and survives, but it's still a devastating outcome. By the end, the villains escape with the 3 captured students, and Muscular eventually gets taken down when backup heroes arrive. The fallout from the summer camp disaster is massive. With 4 students dead and 3 others captured by the villains, UA is under immense pressure, and there's talk of shutting the school down. But the pro-heroes still come together, managing to track down the villain hideouts in hopes of rescuing the students. However, with so many losses and neither Deku nor Shoto around, Kirishima struggles to pull together a team to save his 3 classmates. Then, the battle at Kamino is in full swing. Amid the chaos, Shigaraki holds the 3 captured students hostage, forcing All Might to hold back his punches to avoid harming them. In the end, this hesitation leads to All Might's fall at the hands of All for One. With All Might gone, All for One wouldn't be locked up and would start making moves to take over Shigaraki's body much sooner. Mirio, who's been training non-stop and is nearly at full strength with One for All, is now the last line of defense against All for One and Shigaraki. But with All Might out of the picture, All for One knows Mirio is the successor of One for All and will eventually target him. So All for One has all the time he needs to plan his next move. Once word spreads about All Might's death around the world, Star and Stripe would quickly head to Japan to take down All for One to take revenge. Unfortunately, despite her insanely powerful quirk, she'd still lose the battle, just like she did in the original story. Next up is the Shie Hasaikai arc, and things would actually go a lot smoother with Mirio, who now has One for All, taking an active role. With One for All in permeation, Mirio's speed blitz overhaul, which means Sir Night-Eye makes it out alive, and Eri is saved without a hitch. After Mirio takes down Overhaul, things mostly play out the same. Endeavor still defeats the high-end Nomu, determined to prove he's worthy of the #1 hero title. But this time, All for One has sent the League on a longer training mission with Gigantomachia, lasting 4 months instead of just 1. Eventually, Redestro reaches out to challenge them, but the League quickly crushes the Metahuman Liberation Army, and together they form the Paranormal Liberation Front. Hawks then still goes undercover in the PLF, as the heroes prepare for a final showdown with the villains, knowing it's the only way to take them down for good. Before we dive into the heroes' final push to take down the villains, let's take a moment to go over who won't be there for this last attack. First up, there's Deku. He's alive and well, but he's stuck on the sidelines. He tried talking to Principal Nezu, insisting that his knowledge of the heroes and villains could still be useful, but Nezu told him to go home and stay safe. Then we've got Shoto, Bakugo, and Tokoyami, who are all still held captive. We also sadly have Mineta, Asui, Shoji, and Tenya, who are no longer with us. And let's not forget Aizawa and All Might, who both has also passed. With that, let's jump into the Paranormal Liberation War and the heroes' last stand against the villains. At this point, All for One has completely taken control of Shigaraki, so when the heroes show up during the hospital raid, All for One is at full power and ready to face off against Mirio. While Mirio would put up an amazing fight, he doesn't have the support of Class 1A or the other heroes like Deku had in the original story because of everything that's gone down. In the end, he gets overwhelmed by the strength of all the villains, and All for One comes out on top. Because we can't forget that Dabi would have been able to kill Endeavor, Uraraka would probably have been killed by Toga, and so many more would have lost their lives. So, if Deku never received One for All, the world would have fallen, which is insane. Again, a lot of what happens in the series is tied to All Might being a teacher, so Mirko wouldn't be caught up in the action. He wasn't even on All for One's radar until All for One took down All Might. What do you think would have happened if Deku never got One for All? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and watch this video next.